We're doing a lot more with healthcare vertical these days. Management and leadership training. So anyone who really interacts with a customer, a patient, a client is appropriate for us to be working with. And nowadays we're transitioning from our normal curriculum to really helping our clients adapt to the current business environment we all find ourselves in. So that's kind of a backdrop of Sandler, if you would. When I went through my material, I said, you know what, there's some things that I think are very appropriate for what everyone is dealing with right now. And a lot of it starts with us and the behaviors that we possess and the attitude that we have when we get up every morning, literally. Sandler teaches something called a success triangle. And the components to this are quite simple. There's 3 primary elements that lead to your success, both from a professional or a personal standpoint. One is attitude. Attitude are philosophies, beliefs. That's kind of the why, if you would, the why element. Behaviors are second. That's where your strategies and your plans and goals come in. That's more of the what. And then third are techniques. Techniques are skills, your personal presence, and that's really what we call the how. And the way you mix these together, both positively and negatively, will help you drive momentum either in a positive or a negative result. So I'm going to spend a moment on each one of these today with you. Attitude, quite simply, is a combination of your beliefs, your judgments, your actions that lead to your results. Who can relate to this slide, right? We're all probably living this to some degree. We have the temptation in a given morning to get up and stay in the clothes that we went to bed in and kind of lay around in a more casual environment. You can look at the breakfast on the table. I don't think that's a breakfast of champions. You know, donuts, cupcake left over from the night before, a cup of coffee. Typically, how you start your day will be a derivative of how your day goes. And if you start kind of sluggish and you start by not eating healthy and you start by kind of just chilling out, if you would, and we all can use these moments, clearly, but studies show that typically this will be the pattern that stays with you throughout the day. So what I wanted to do, and we'll cross our fingers that this works, there was a commencement speech that was given by a Navy admiral, and it's all about how you start your day strong. He gave a commencement speech back in 2014 on this subject, and cross our fingers that this will work. So let's see.
Let me show you how to create an amazing ad using stock footage. Go to artgrid.io. Look at all
this great
footage.
Bear with me 1 minute.
It was always a challenge for me to create a high-end commercial only with stock footage.
Are you able to see that? Okay.
Yes, we can see it, Bob. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Has the highest rate of increase in the world, and our numbers.
Health workers diagnosed with the virus represent 14% of all those cases.
And unemployment claims are higher than they have ever been in our history.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. I've been a Navy SEAL for 36 years. Every morning, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do is inspect my bed. The corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. At times, it will test you to your very core. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At that darkest moment of the mission is a time when you need to be calm, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. But changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person. One person can change the world by giving people hope. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair, that you will fail often. But if you step up when the times are the toughest, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up, if you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. But the question is, what will the world look like after you change it?
Okay. So something as simple as starting out making your bed. It's about getting small victories, small wins. You know, we presented this concept to a class last week, and we asked people in the class, you know, how many make their bed in the morning? And they were kind of looking at us, you know, why would you ask that? I'd say about half were. My excuse was, when I get up, my wife is still in bed, so it's kind of hard for me to make my bed. But, you know, the concept is you want to start out and find small victories to get your day off on the right start. Try to eat healthy. For those who work out, I know gyms are closed, but you can still maybe go for a run and get your body moving positively. So we're going to shift from attitude to behaviors. So now behaviors, again, are those activities that you do either daily, weekly, monthly. And we're going to kind of step into, and this is where I'm hoping you can take away some tactics that I'm going to share with you that you can be doing now as you shift from working in our prior environment, which was more face-to-face, more in-person meetings, if you would, to doing things like we are today in a more virtual environment. So let's look at where we've had to press pause for a bit. Networking events. Obviously, everyone on this call has been to a number of Valley Chamber events, various networking events that Nancy and Bill and company put together for us. In-person calls. You know, there's quite a few businesses that thrive on either retail or doing business person to person. Obviously, travel, the big area there where we've had to press pause. on all travel. Event marketing, that's clearly been impacted, and many other things have been impacted here, as well as lunch meetings, right? Lunch meetings was always a popular way of interacting with someone, a prospect or a client, just staying in touch, setting up a lunch meeting just to cover business and enjoy company. But we don't have to put them all on pause. We just have to change the way we're doing those. So things like we're here doing this video conference, right? This is a form of networking, right? We have this session where there's some learning as well as some interaction and fellowship. So we're just changing the parameters of how we're going about doing this. The in-person calls now have to be replaced by more social selling and emailing. And I'm gonna get into some techniques on and strategies on how to do that in a minute. You know, event marketing, granted, we can't do as much as that. Unfortunately, some of the facilities, the larger facilities around the world, like the Javits Center and McCormick Place, instead of being a place to have trade shows, they're now hospitals. So it's time for thought leadership. It's time for business owners to take this time and really give some thought not only to how their business is operating today, but how their business will operate in the future. You know, just for my company, Sandler, we were doing about half of our training in a classroom setting. I'm here today in one of our facilities. You can't tell by my picture there, but I'm in one of our facilities here today where we normally have classroom training. Everything now is virtual. And I suspect when we come out of this, we'll probably continue a more virtual presence than we were ever doing before. Webinars and online events you can do as a business owner. You can attend to kind of invest in your team now from a training perspective, from a key learning perspective. Let's talk a bit about that lunch discussion though, because I'm going to propose something to you that I'd like you to try. And Nancy was kind enough to send me this link, which was all the area restaurants that are in the Greater Valley area. They're all trying to sustain their business right now. Most of them or all of them are forced to do takeout, and many of them deliver. And if they don't deliver, you can use Uber Eats, which is a client of ours at Sandler. And you can still conduct a lunch meeting. What I ask you to try to do is reach out to someone that you haven't interacted with in a while and offer to take them to lunch. They're going to probably say, what? Social distancing? No restaurants are open? No, I'm going to have lunch delivered to you. What time is good? Tuesday at noon? Fine. I'm going to have lunch delivered to you. So we're going to have a virtual call. You're going to be feeding them. You're going to be enjoying lunch as well. You're going to be supporting an area restaurant. And believe me, you'll have their undivided attention because you're feeding them. Coming from an Italian, trust me, if you feed me, I'm really listening to you. So that's just a way to kind of get around not being able to do the physical lunch meetings. We've been doing those for the last month or so with some of our clients, and it's gone over very well. So Nancy can share that link with you, which has all the various restaurants in the Valley area that would love for you to help them continue to run their businesses. Let's take a look at social selling, right? It's easy to say we should be doing that, but some folks don't really know how well to do that. How do I get started doing that? So again, now the concept here is twofold. You want to take and you want to enhance your social network right now. And you want to look at two areas to do that. You want to look at existing connections that you may have on LinkedIn as an example. Could be Instagram, could be Facebook. LinkedIn is the popular one most used for businesses. And what I ask you to do is make sure all your prior clients and your existing clients are connected with you on LinkedIn. You're going to find they all aren't. That we've gotten laxed in keeping it updated. Now's the time to kind of catch up and do that. And one way to do that, if you're not connected, is reach out. Or if you are connected and you haven't heard or discussed anything with them for a while, set yourself a goal. Reach out to at least 20 inactive or dormant connections and say to them some type of an easy line in the paragraph or a message. I'm reaching out to you in position of support. I'm not really trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to reconnect with you to see if there's any way that I can help you right now. Look for connection opportunities, people that you're not connected with. And the way you want to start there is look at people who work within your verticals or who may have mutual connections. So you're both connected to someone together. You can refer that individual on the message line and just start with something similar, something easy. I see we have a number of mutual connections in common. I see we both work in the same vertical. Do you have 5 minutes to connect and we can share ways of how we might be able to help each other during this difficult time? What you're going to find when we start counseling people to do this, in today's business climate, your success rate will be about 50% of who will engage with you now. When you try to do this in, let's say, normal times, your success rate of who responds is more like 10 to 20%. Why? Because people are starved right now for contact. They're relishing opportunities to interact with people. Human contact is critical. Someone said it when we were jumped on the call. You know, I look forward to interacting with people. So take advantage of that in a subtle way and don't come across overly selling, come across from a supportive way and just from a what we have in common way. So there's a couple of other little tidbits that hopefully you can incorporate now into your social selling. If you do email or direct messaging, what you want to make sure you're doing is using very short, succinct subject lines. Now is not the time to write in War and Peace. You want to just be direct to the point, short subject lines. The content of the email or the text message would be very brief. You want to have an introduction and purpose, some type of a pain indicator, and we'll get into more of this in a moment. If you have a unique proposition you want to talk to them about, and then you want to follow it up with a call if they respond. So again, less is better here, and you don't want to get too wordy. Something direct and to the point, especially if it's a text and if it's an email. How do you follow up with those? You want to alternate attempts to connect with someone. Emails, direct messages, text, voice. You want to strive to make 5 or 6 attempts over a few week period. You don't want to bombard them. A lot of it will be based on, do they interact with you after the first attempt or after the second attempt? If they do, if they respond to your post, call them. Don't wait to the end of the day to call them right away because they're already engaged with you. They've already read your LinkedIn message and maybe responded. Hey, good to hear from you. Would love to catch up. So you want to call them and maybe set up a time that works to do that. Most gatekeepers are probably not in the facilities now, but if they are, you want to engage with them. Don't try to sneak past them. You want to talk to them as well because they're living through what's impacting their business as well. So technique is the third element here. What we're trying to propose to our clients is whatever you're doing, you've got to do it crisply and you've got to do it well. So if you look at this picture, you probably notice the gentleman in the iPad looks good, right? You've got good eye contact. His visual is real crisp. He's got a nice background there, whether it's actually where he is or one of those Zoom backgrounds. But look at the person who's holding the iPad or the laptop there, right? when you're making face-to-face contact on meetings like this, you should be looking at each other's eyes. What's he looking up at? In that example, the video he would have, or the picture he would have of her, he's probably looking up her nose because she's at a higher angle than he is. So you want to even start with how you're presenting yourself on the Zoom call. Look at your environment behind you, right? Because this is all we have right now. We're not in front of somebody. We're not doing face-to-face. We're doing face-to-face from a virtual standpoint. So be aware of that. This is just something subtle that we probably wouldn't even recognize unless you're on the other end of it. So normal conversation starters, when you meet someone, here are typical questions that we've all probably asked. If you meet a prospect, you're going to talk about, how'd you get started in your industry? How'd you get started in your company? Think about networking events. If you want to find out more about your company, tell me a little bit more about your business. How many locations do you have? How long have you been? So these are the typical questions. We're proposing you don't start there yet. This is normally where you might start in a normal environment. What's more important right now is you have to take their temperature first. You don't know how this crazy times we're in has impacted them. They could have a loved one that's been impacted by this severely. They can have loved ones that are in the healthcare field that every day when they leave their house, they wonder what condition are they going to come home in, right? They can have friends, acquaintances that have been more impacted than you might have been. So our suggestion is just start with a very basic, simple statement. Hey, crazy times we're in, isn't it? And just stop with that and see what their response to that is. And if they respond with, yeah, it is crazy. I mean, we're fortunate, we're all doing well here. Then you can kind of work your way into some of those next questions. Glad to hear everyone's healthy. Glad to hear the kids are doing well. How are you finding this impacting your industry? And then you can get into some questions, but you got to get into these after you kind of clear the temperature read first. They'll give you hints if they're ready to move into the typical questions we would ask. Then you focus those on how is your industry, how's your marketplace, i.e. the Valley, Connecticut. We see today, how Connecticut's impacted and the economy in Connecticut versus other states. Then you can get into the specific company questions. And don't forget to ask, how are they? How are you doing from a personal perspective? Anything I can do to help you? Anything I can do to help you in any of these 4 areas? That's really what your goal is right now. You'd love to be able to close business with people, but ideally, when we define a win right now, it's a new relationship that we create. It's a relationship that we re-engage with that might have been dormant over the years or over the months. You want to set yourself up and position yourself so when things turn more back to normal, you'll enhance your base of contacts. If you can conduct business now, great. And I know last week's call, there was a lot of discussion around some people feeling guilty about conducting business. Business is still out there. Some industries are impacted a great deal and some not as much. But we have to practice compassion and empathy first before we get into the basic business questions. So one of the last slides here is it's all about building relationships for mutual gain. Right now, we should be doing more giving and listening. Listen to your prospect, listen to your client. What can I do to help you be more successful or to get through this crisis? You want to build relationships by staying connected with people. Again, set yourself some goals. Reach out to 20 people that you haven't interacted with in a while. you're building authority and credibility by adding value, right? They'll want to continue to do work with you, and they'll remember this after this is behind us. Who did step up and who did work with us and offer some solutions for us during our biggest time of need? And build intimacy by opening up and being personable. You know, ask them first, crazy times, huh? Don't just lead with business as usual type questions. What is consistent is crisis is temporary. With God's will, and hopefully they'll find a cure for this via medical or vaccinations or what have you, or just the social distancing. You know, things will turn around and rebound. I mean, here's just a depiction after 9/11, and you know, everyone's worried about 401ks and the stock market. It rebounded rather quickly. Doesn't do it overnight, but it rebounded almost by the end of the year to being back to where it was prior to 9/11. And that too will happen here. It's just a matter of what can we do to adjust some of the things we're doing now and take some of these simple tactics and apply them now, so then you can then determine what's considered a win for you. How do you define a win in your current environment? This might be different for each of you in your respective businesses. And what's one attitude, behavior, or technique that you learned today that you'll apply going forward? So to help you going forward, I'm offering our website is full of, we've enhanced our website and a lot of our offerings to help businesses during these times. We're offering clients or prospects, if they want to attend one of our virtual classes, there's a link on our website to do that. We have over 30 webinars that are posted on our website. All of these are free. Some are live, some are recorded. Podcasts as well. There's over 30 podcasts. A lot of them are different by industry and vertical. So I encourage you to go on and see what may apply to you best. There's 30 is a common number. We have over 30 white papers that we've accumulated as well on our site that again are available for you that you can look at and read. If you're interested and you're having trouble accessing any of that, I give you my contact information here. It's simply my name at sandler.com. And there's our website, peak.sandler.com. It's where you can find a whole load of information. It's available, and it's we're offering it to all you folks here to help through this this time that we're in. So Nance, I hope I kept to the timeline that you asked me to. Apologize if it went longer.